Hello Cancer, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. We'll be pulling for all three sides of the connection, so we'll look at your energy toward it, their energy toward it, and the energy in between it. The concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we're looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section is looking at what is the deeper purpose of this connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and to leave what does not. On that note, especially if you're a cross-watcher, just know that this whole reading can be reversed. If that is the case for you, that is totally fine and totally normal. Again, the point is to take what helps and leave what doesn't. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right, Cancer, let's see what we've got here. We're looking at overall energy first with oracle cards, and then we'll dive deeper into the story with tarot as we progress. So let's look here. Cancer, at your side of this connection. Interference. Wild card. Love, euphoria, and separation. So this connection brought you to some pretty high highs in terms of, the feelings that you had for them and the excitement that you felt for the connection. But at the same time, I feel like as things stand right now, because this is obviously with the separation card, a connection that you're dealing with separation from. And I feel like this wild card is just this energy of there's a lot up in the air. And I feel like there's a lot that you're trying to make sense of while being in this place. Now, this interference card is interesting too, because to me, this feels like there's something that you see as blocking this connection from its potential. And I feel like there's a part of you that's, if this interference could be removed, then things could be really good. So I don't necessarily know what is going on. This is overall energy. But let's look at this person's energy toward you. One more. Shattered. Breakups and makeups. Divine timing, money versus love and detachment. This person has a lot of in and out energy. When it comes to this connection, I feel like there's times where they're very present and then there's times where they're very withdrawn. Obviously, as things stand right now, I feel like this is a period where they're very withdrawn. This shattered card, I feel like, is kind of a reflection of almost like their state of consciousness. And what I mean by that is I feel like they have this feeling that they're very broken, very damaged. And I feel like because of that, a lot of the struggles that they carry come from feeling, not good enough for love, not capable of love, whatever the case might be. And because of that, since they have this money versus love card, I don't usually see this as specifically choosing money over love, but more so surface level connections over depth. And I feel like this connection obviously provides the promise of a lot of depth, and I can feel you showing up with a lot of depth in it too, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's exactly how you're supposed to show up for relationships. But it feels like this person in general is kind of detached from themselves, maybe even from their emotions, and from being able to access that depth. So I feel like they tend to be more drawn to people in situations that don't require them to go deeper into themselves, because people can only meet us where they've met themselves. To the extent they've met themselves, they can only love others to the extent they love themselves, so on and so forth. But I feel like they do obviously feel very drawn to this, which is why they kind of have this in and out energy. So there's a lot going on with this person. And I feel like a lot that they are needing to address and deal with themselves so that they are able to show up for this in the way that you desire and deserve. But I feel like there's more to this. So let's look deeper at this, the truth of this connection between Cancer and this person. Follow your heart. Redacted with this connection. So there's obviously a really strong connection here. But I also feel that there's a lot that is very left unsaid and unspoken in this connection. So there's a lot of room for, kind of seeing things through the lens of insecurity and fear and like trying to make sense of where the other person's at and what they're thinking. And I do feel like this is coming from both sides, which is ultimately what's making it hard for you, Cancer, to follow your heart, because I feel like you do feel, so drawn to this connection, but at the same time, I feel like it has been kind of a painful ride, a painful experience, if you will. So with that being said, I feel like that's why maybe you're watching this reading, just trying to figure out like what's real, what's not, how this person's feeling. And I think that we're about to get pretty deep here, if I'm being honest. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Overall theme of this reading between you and this person. I knew we were going to see this card. I knew it. There will be a return. And I knew it because I saw how in and out this person was. And I knew we were going to see this this here. Someone isn't happy. Some people never change. Okay. So obviously there's this cycle of, when things are good, things are good. And when things are not, they're really not. And I feel like it draws you into some really difficult places, like kind of darker places, because I feel like there's this promise for so much potential in this connection. Again, I feel like it has a tendency to take you to some really high highs, but I feel like it has also the same tendency to bring you to some pretty low lows. And I think that as things stand, you're looking for this person to change in a way where they're able to be more consistent or able to essentially be able to meet that depth. And I think that that is kind of something that you've been holding on to for a while. Now you do have this some people never change card, so I don't necessarily know what's coming through yet. I feel like there's, a lot of times this overall theme starts to make more sense as we start to pull a little bit deeper into the energy. So let's look here, Cancer, at your side, Euphoria with interference. This is for Cancer's energy toward the person they are dealing with. Cancer's energy toward this person. Whoop, 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 whoop. Goodness sakes. 8 of Pentacles in reverse. Putting a lot of energy and effort into something, but not seeing the results of it. Knight of Pentacles in reverse. This is definitely an energy of stagnation. The world, the cycle that keeps repeating. I feel, Cancer, like you have absolutely just time and time again poured yourself into this this connection and into this person. And it's actually a really beautiful energy, because I do feel like you have a lot of love to give, and it's extremely rare that someone is willing to, invest so much into connections, and from, such a selfless place. Here you are, Queen of Cups. But it's like you keep experiencing the cycle of pouring and pouring and pouring, and yet still feeling like you're coming up short, feeling like it's not enough, feeling like no matter how much you give, you're not able to receive what it is that you do ultimately deserve here. And again, I feel like that's why you're at a little bit of like this crossroads. And I kind of said that when I saw this follow your heart card, because I feel like, there's so much potential here, and you're obviously really drawn to that, and you obviously want to do everything in your power to try to reach that potential, especially if you're, you've never felt this way before, and things of that nature, which I absolutely, understand. When we have and we see, when we have a lot of feelings and we see a lot of potential in something, of course, we're going to want to do everything we can to make that work. But then on the flip side, I feel like you and like your soul is really tired of this cycle. Like, I feel like you're tired of things not working out. You're tired of being in the low lows that do come. It's almost like inevitably, it's like there's the high highs, but inevitably, there's the low lows because of when this person withdraws, or, whatever the case might be. And so you're almost a little bit with this 5 of Swords, like on the defensive, because I feel like you're trying to protect your heart. You're trying to make sure that you're doing what's best for you, but it's almost like, especially with the 8 of Wands in reverse, like you're almost a little bit confused of what that is, because on one hand, you see that potential and you're really drawn to that potential, but on the other hand, you don't want this cycle to repeat. So it's like, so what do I do? And I think this, especially with this Hermit, I think Spirit is asking you to go a little bit deeper into some reflection about this cycle and like what's really kind of coming up here, because I do feel like there's a lot more to how things are unfolding than you might be able to see. There's always surface level energy, and there's always kind of what's going on below the surface. And the goal of these readings is to really look at what's going on below the surface. Let's take out, almost like step outside of the human experience for a little bit and get to the nitty gritty truth of like what's really happening. And I think that that's what we often have a hard time doing, because especially when we have a tendency to live in our triggers and live in the emotional experience, we might be blinded to certain truths that we're needing to address and see. So I feel like with this, what you desire is understandable, especially because sometimes you do feel that in this connection. But it's also important for you to know that you deserve consistency. You deserve to be chosen. You deserve to be valued. You deserve for somebody to make you feel chosen and valued in a consistent way. And that lack of consistency has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them, and we're going to jump into kind of where they're at in a second. And being able to separate like your value and your worth from somebody else's behavior is really important, because knowing that you're still capable of receiving the love that you deserve and desire, regardless of whether somebody else is able to be that for you or not, is really important. Because again, like you've poured yourself into this, and like not just you pouring yourself into this isn't what makes you worthy and deserving of what it is that you desire, but in addition to that, like you also have so much to give, and that deserves to be valued appropriately and treated in accordance to that value. So with that being said, let's let's look at this person's energy. Breakups and makeups with shattered. This person's energy toward you, Cancer. That's so interesting. They have the Eight of Pentacles upright. Oh, and the Devil. Hang on. There's the interference. Eight of Cups. Could be dealing with a fire sign, Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, but you don't have to be. There's the Ten of Swords. Oh my goodness. Ace of Cups in reverse. Oh, Cancer. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This person's a bit of a mess. Not in like a... Gosh, there's so much mirroring happening here. Because we started... It's funny. We started with the Eight of Pentacles and we're ending it with the Two of Swords. Okay. This person's a bit of a mess. And not in the sense that... there's anything wrong with them necessarily. I don't know. Okay, you know, you're pouring your heart and your soul into this connection, and they're working on this Devil. There's a lot of energy being poured into this Devil. This Devil, an attachment of some sort. And maybe that's what you see as the interference. It could be addiction. It could be unhealthy patterns. It could be emotional unavailability stemming from any of those things. Like, whatever the case might be, it feels like there's something very karmic that they have a tendency to prioritize over this connection. And I think that a lot of that stems from their... Oh, okay. Oh gosh, okay. There's a lot coming through. Going back to what I said at the beginning, this connection pulls them into a place of depth that it's something that they're very unfamiliar with. It's something that they are intrigued by, but it's also something that they don't really know how to handle. So I feel like when things start to feel overwhelming and serious and too much, I feel like that's where this person starts to, you know, dip into this Eight of Cups energy, to kind of removing their energy from yours and putting themselves in this position of essentially kind of being the runner. Now, that's where they start to prioritize the Devil. Going back to the money versus love card, I feel like they have a tendency to prioritize things that are very surface level, like maybe pouring themselves into work, or pouring themselves into their status, or pouring themselves into, you know, friendships or relationships with people that are very karmic in a way. And I feel like that's something that they aren't really very aware of. But I also feel at the same time that it's something that they're not really... interested in changing. And I don't say that from this place of like that they never will, but as things stand right now, it feels like this person is very driven into these situations because they are very familiar to them. We tend to be very driven by our wounding, and when, you know, we're used to situations that are painful or that don't really reflect what it is that we deserve or desire, but reflect what it is that we're used to, our ego is going to be very drawn to them. And so because this connection is very unfamiliar to them, like the dynamic and all of this wonderful energy that you have to give, I feel like it's something that they just kind of almost shut themselves off from, not because they don't have feelings for you, but because they prefer the familiar. Their ego prefers the familiar, and it feels like this person is very driven by ego. Now, the way that I'm kind of seeing this coming through, especially with the Ten of Swords and the Ace of Cups in reverse, I feel like this person has a tendency to really repress a lot of how they feel. You know, I think that this person carries a lot of baggage from past experiences. And I said this at the beginning, it's almost like they see themselves as someone that is very broken, someone that has been through too much, or, is just so unlovable and so unworthy and so undeserving. And so you come along and it's like this energy of like everything that they could want, and it's something that they already deep down don't think that they can have. And so because of that, I feel like they make a lot of sabotaging decisions in this connection. Not because of you or anything to do with you, but because of where they're at. And I think that because of that, there's a lot of frustration on your end, because that's what I feel like you see as an interference. It's like, if this person could stop doing these things, like, this could be so good. Like, why are they doing this? And so I think that you've spent a lot of time like waiting for this person to make healthier decisions, or to grow, or to heal, or to evolve, or whatever the case is. If there's anything that I've ever learned, it's that we cannot change other people. And the second that we step into a connection trying to change somebody else is the second that we start setting ourselves up for heartbreak. And I don't say that to say that this connection is doomed and there's absolutely no hope. But what I do say this from this place of needing to make sure that you're protecting your heart and your soul from this person's repetitive pattern. Because if they have a karmic pattern of, being drawn into this because it's what they desire, but then sabotaging it, at the end of the day, that continues to hurt you, right? Now, I think a lot of times we have this tendency to look at what people do as a reflection of our value or our worth. So we think like, oh, they don't see that I'm good enough, or they don't see that I'm value, or they don't see that I'm worthy. And a lot of times it can look like us wanting to show them that they're valuable and worthy. But then at the end of the day, we're also trying to show ourselves that we're valuable and worthy. And we start to put ourselves into this position of taking responsibility for somebody else's healing. And the second that we take responsibility for somebody else's healing is the second that we lose our power, because we have no control over another person's healing. We have no control over another person's growth. And sure, we should absolutely be there for the people that we love, to support them. But the second that it starts to become something that is damaging to yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever the case is the second that we are in this position of self-abandoning for love. And when we're in a place where we feel like we have to self-abandon for love, there is always a wound driving that decision making. So when that's the case, and I feel like what this reading is really trying to do is point you to something deeper. It's not necessarily about what this person is doing and why, but more so about what this means for you, and what this cycle and this connection is trying to help you heal, how this connection is trying to push you to grow and to evolve ultimately, so that you can break out of the cycle that you're in with them and ultimately receive what it is that you deserve. Because if this person just kind of keeps, coming into your life whenever they decide they want to, but then leaving whenever things get hard, you're going to continue to be left on this roller coaster of feeling these incredible highs whenever they do, choose you, whatever, but then these incredible lows whenever they walk away. And if they continue to walk away because their wounding is driving the wheel, then if their wounding continues to drive the wheel, they're going to continue to stay in this cycle where they're in and out. And you do not deserve somebody who is in and out, okay? You might be used to that energy, and that may be something that you believe is necessary on the path to receiving love, but I promise you, it is not. I used to think those same things too. I spent a lot of time in my life chasing after people who wouldn't choose me or wouldn't value me in a consistent way. And when I finally decided to stop doing that, even if I thought they were a twin flame or a soulmate or whatever label, I had for them, is when I eventually met my husband. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that consistent, healthy love does exist, and it doesn't have to be boring, okay? I think a lot of times we think consistent and healthy means boring, but sometimes we have to understand that the reason that we're driven towards cycles with people who don't choose us and value us is because we don't think we can have the love that we deserve and desire, so we look for it in familiar spaces. So I do kind of feel like there's something more that's needing to be addressed here, more so in terms of, because I think that a lot of times we look at, we're not being treated well or chosen or valued or whatever. We always look at like what the other person is doing and what they should do so that we can be treated well. But a lot of times what we miss, and this is where one of my favorite quotes comes into play, and that's, the only way, or what was it? One of my favorite quotes, and I can't even remember it. I'm trying to think of the exact wording of the quote, but it's essentially the extent to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth they can accept about themselves without running away. I think that so much of the time, and I said this, there's a lot of mirroring here, right? So our relationships with other people mirror our relationship with ourselves. And the more that we can look at it that way, the more that we can see, okay, if somebody else isn't choosing us, valuing us, loving us, or like doing that in a consistent way, in some way, shape, or form, we are not choosing us, loving us, or valuing us, and doing that in a consistent way. And if we want to experience the love that we do truly deserve and desire, it has to start within us. And it has to start within the actions in which we show up for the love for ourselves, which a lot of times means breaking cycles with people who don't choose us, value us, love us in the way that we do deserve. And I think that that's the hardest lesson that we face in this lifetime. I do kind of have a bone to pick with the whole twin flame concept, because I've been on that journey and I felt those experiences where I was just so incredibly drawn towards somebody. And there was a lot of truth to that. This person woke me up and they put me on a spiritual path, and a lot of really wonderful things in my life came because of that connection, but it wasn't about that connection to that person. The reason that I was so drawn to that connection was because of my need for healing. When we're drawn to people who don't treat us the way that we deserve to be treated, there's always a wound, like I said, that is driving the wheel. So with that being said, I do think that, yes, this person might make a return, but the question is, do you want that? Do you want to continue this pattern? Do you want to keep ending up in this place where you are just back in these low lows? Because consistent love does exist, and you absolutely deserve it. So in between this connection, you have follow your heart. With connection, we're going to dive deeper into this reading, looking at the deeper purpose and the best way for you to move forward in alignment with your higher self. Any information for that is in the description box below. Thank you so much, Cancer, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Cancer.